Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. We do have a quorum present. It is 6 p.m. So I'd like to call to order this organizational meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Chittenden Solid Waste District. Meeting has been properly warned and a packet was sent out to all commissioners. And I will be following the agenda as presented in the packet. First item on the agenda is the agenda itself. Are there any requests for changes or additions to the agenda?
Paul, I'd just like to make it clear that you're calling to order the annual organizational meeting for the district.
That is correct. I'm not hearing any requests for changes or additions to the agenda, so we'll follow the agenda as presented in the board packet. Item number 2 on the agenda is the public comment period. Are there any members of the public present in the CSWD meeting room or via Zoom or phone who wish to address the Board of Commissioners?
There are no members of the public.
And I'm seeing nobody identifying themselves via Zoom or via phone, so we will close the public comment period. Next item on the agenda is the introduction of new board members and appreciation for those previously serving. Sarah, did you just want to have an introductory comment to identify those who are coming and going?
Sure. We have one new addition to the board in St. George as an alternate, Joel Culp. And we are still vacant in Williston, just FYI, if anyone knows of anyone else who may be interested in serving for Williston, please do encourage them to reach out. And for folks who have moved off the board, the St. George alternate, Sarah Tischler, and the Williston representative, Kelton Bogowski.
I just wanted to take this moment to publicly appreciate the work that Kelton has done for us over the past several years as the commissioner from Williston. I think there are 3 key areas where he really made an important contribution to our work as a board. First, as we know, he was Williston is the host town, and it's always critically important that we have a commissioner from our host town. And I think Kelton did an admirable job of representing the town of Williston before the board and giving information and instruction and guidance to staff as well as the representative from Williston. Secondly, I'd like to acknowledge that he often has shared his perspective of the hauling community. As many of us, I think, know, for a while he had worked at Casella, but left Casella at some point during his tenure as a commissioner from Williston. But he frequently reminded us of the hauling community and brought issues or their perspective, their concerns to the board, which is, I think, really important for us in our deliberations and our work to be aware of. So I appreciate what he did on that score. And then finally, he reminded us regularly of the constituents in our district for whom any cost increases really represented real challenges to their personal finances. That was an item of concern, and I, for one, really do appreciate that it's important for us to recognize that even small changes in fees do have an impact. So I wanted to publicly thank Kelton for bringing that to the fore as well during his time as a commissioner from Williston. That's, I don't know if anybody else has a comment or appreciation. I'd also just point out that Kaylin McCamp, as the alternate from Williston, my understanding is not in a position to assume the full commissioner role. So as Sarah had intimated, that there is an opening. And if any of us know of anybody in Williston who might be a suitable candidate, to encourage them to contact the select board in Williston or the town administrator to come forward and fill this really important slot.
And there's also has still been an opening in Bolton as well. So if you know anyone who would be willing to serve for Bolton, that's another opening on the board too.
So I think we're ready then to move on to item number 4 of the agenda, which is the annual organizational meeting. And there are a number of actions that are required of us tonight for the coming year. And the first of those is election of officers. Sarah, I don't know if you had any introductory comments or wanted to just walk us through the process, and then I can take over for actually handling the elections as they come up.
Sure. So as Paul mentioned, per our charter, we are required to hold an annual meeting in June of each year to elect our officers and our executive board. And then there are also an additional few items that we need to do per that charter guidance. And in the memo in the packet, I explain which articles and the voting rights, et cetera. And we do go over the process since we have adopted a hybrid version. When there is a contested contest, more than one nominee for a position, we have established a process by which to make sure that we can get those votes by each individual city or town, and then to tally those votes and do that in basically an Australian ballot type situation. So in the memo that was included in the packet, I had asked for nominations to be sent to me prior to June 18. That does not mean that people cannot nominate themselves or have someone else nominate them tonight. That is certainly able to do so. So for each of the officers, we will take each officer election in turn to allow for nominations to be received for those positions. When we get to the executive board, there is still one slot open. We did have a late nomination come in. So when we get there, I will ask that person if they have agreed to the nomination. And then we'll add that person to the list and then solicit any additional nominations at that time. So Paul, if you would like to.
I can take it over from here. My first request is all voting commissioners who are on Zoom, if you'd please turn on your video, because the request is when we come to voting that you both verbally announce your vote, but also raise your hand when it's time for your vote to be recorded, as the secretary needs to record everybody's votes. So again, please turn on. That would be, I think we're looking for Andrew, at least from Richmond. I think you'll need to identify yourself visually, and also Mike.
I apologize. I actually don't have a camera on this computer that I'm working on. Maybe I can put it in chat or raise my hand. I mean, I can say it verbally, obviously, but can I raise my hand, like, just with the little raise hand icon, maybe?
That if the chair can rule here, I would say that would be acceptable, unless council advises otherwise.
Chair rule, so be it.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. Sorry about that. I'll try to get that squared away for next time.
No, that's quite all right. Then there was a good solution to it. Maybe we should all be doing that. So the first position to be elected is that of chair. As of June 18th, there was one person who identified himself as being willing to be considered for the position. That is myself. I represent the town of Underhill. Are there any other any other commissioners who wish to be nominated, either self-nominated or would accept a nomination for the position of chair for the coming year?
Dead silence.
I am hearing none, so I think then we're ready to vote on the election of the chair with the one nominee of Paul Roos from Underhill.
Paul, you would close the nominations and then you would ask for the vote.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I need a motion to close the nominations. Did I hear you correctly?
Correct.
So moved, Burlington.
Second, Jericho.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we close nominations for the position of chair. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? We're now ready to vote on the position of chair, that being Paul Roos of Underhill. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Aye.
We'll wait for the secretary to tell us when we can drop our hands.
Yes, all set. Thank you.
You're all set. Any opposed, please say nay and raise your hand. Any abstentions, please indicate such. Would the secretary then indicate the results of this this vote?
Voting passes.
It is unanimous?
Yes.
Thank you. So I will declare Paul Roos to be the chair for the coming year. Thank you very much for your confidence in me for doing this for another year. The next position we have to vote on is that of vice chair. We have one nomination that was received as of June 18th, that being Alan Nye from Essex Town. Are there any other nominations for the board to be entertained by the board this evening? I am hearing none, so we'll entertain a motion then to close nominations.
I so move.
Second, Charlotte.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we close the nominations for the position of vice chair. All those in favor of closing nominations, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? We are now ready to vote on the position of vice chair, that being Alan Nye of Essex Town. All those in favor of voting for Alan Nye, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 And keep them up so that the secretary can record us.
I am all set.
You're all set? Any nay? Please say so and raise your hand. Any abstentions?
Essex.
Thank you. Secretary can confirm, I hope, that the voting was a majority in the affirmative with one abstention.
That's correct.
Okay, I declare that Alan Nye has been elected vice chair of the Board of Commissioners for the coming year. Next position is that of secretary. For the past many years, we have not had a commissioner fulfill this role. We've actually had Amy Jewell fulfilling that function quite admirably. Our charter does provide for the opportunity, or does allow, that a non-commissioner can fill this role. But first, I want to see if there are any commissioners who would like to be nominated, either self-nominated or entertain someone else to nominate them for the position of secretary. I am hearing none. I would put forth then the name of Amy Jewell to be our secretary for the coming year. Amy, are you willing to perform this duty for the coming year?
With pleasure.
Well,
Wow.
okay, that's wonderful to hear. So we do have a nominee for the position of secretary, that being Amy Jewell.
Move
Any
we close
other-
nominations, Jericho.
Thank you.
Second,
Thank
Shelburne.
you. It's been moved and seconded that we close the nominations for that position of secretary. All those in favor of closing the nominations period, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? We have now closed the nomination period. We're ready to vote on the position of secretary with our sole nominee, that being Amy Jewell. All those in favor of voting or of electing Amy Jewell, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All set.
Thank you very much. Any opposed, say nay and raise your hand. Any abstentions? I believe that it is now unanimous, and I'll declare that Amy Jewell has been elected secretary of the board for the coming year. Thank you very much, Amy, for taking on this task. You're doing an excellent job. We really, really appreciate the work that you do. The next position to vote on is that of treasurer. Paul Stabler of South Burlington has been nominated as of June 18th. Are there any other commissioners who wish to either self-nominate or would entertain another person nominating them? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion then to close nominations.
So moved.
Moved Essex.
Second, Jericho.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we close the nominating period for the position of treasurer of the Board of Commissioners. All those in favor of closing the nominating period, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Nominating period is now closed, and we are ready to vote on the position of treasurer with the one nominee, that being Paul Stabler of South Burlington. All those in favor of electing Paul Stabler, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 All set.
Thank you very much. Any opposed, please say nay and raise your hand. Any abstentions?
South Burlington.
Thank you. Secretary, can you tell us the results of the election?
That passed.
Thank you very much. I declare then that Paul Stabler has been elected as treasurer of the district, of the Chittenden Solid Waste District for the coming year. Thank you very much, Paul, for being willing to take on that role and that responsibility again. We are now ready to move on to the election of the executive board. We call for 4 exec board members. The chair, who was just recently elected, is automatically a member of the executive board. In the memo or in the board packet, 3 commissioners have been identified, that being Lee Perry of Burlington, Alan Nye of Essex Junction, Paul Stabler of South Burlington. And then Sarah, you had mentioned that there was one other nomination that came in after the memo went out.
Yes, Alan Nye, correction, from Essex Town.
I'm sorry, thank you.
The additional nomination was Ken Spencer, Charlotte.
Thank you very much. I can say that all 4 of these nominees have served on the exec board for the past year and have been very helpful, and they've performed their service in an exemplary manner. Are there other nominations, either self-nominations or commissioners willing to be nominated by another person to be nominated for a position on the executive board? Hearing none.
Close nominations.
Thank you.
Second Burlington.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we close nominations for the executive board. All those in favor of closing the nomination period, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The nominating period has been closed. We'll now move to the actual vote. Because this is a non-contested election, there are 4 positions open and we have 4 candidates. I believe we can then vote them as a slate, both verbally and visually, without resorting to a private ballot. Therefore, all those in favor of electing Lee Perry of Burlington, Alan Nye of Essex Town, Paul Stabler of South Burlington, and Ken Spencer of Charlotte to the executive board, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
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 All set.
Thank you. Any opposed, say nay and raise your hand. Are there any abstentions? Wonderful. If we had any abstentions, we might have risked losing our quorum on this. Well, it wouldn't have mattered, I guess. But at any rate, the results of the election, Secretary, please.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. And I declare then that Lee Perry, Alan Nye, Paul Stabler, and Ken Spencer have been elected to the executive board of the Chittenden Solid Waste District for the coming year. Thank you very much for your willingness to continue to serve. Before we move on to the next item of business, I just want to acknowledge that in the memo, in our packet, Sarah had acknowledged that we also have a finance committee. Members of the finance committee are appointed by the chair, and I will be making those appointments by the time of the next meeting of the board, but I'm not going to be making those assignments tonight. Next item on the agenda, item 4EC, granting of authority, and I'll turn this over to Sarah.
Thank you. And so there are several specific powers and abilities that the board needs to reauthorize on an annual basis. And I'm actually going to take them a little out of order. We've got the calendar slid in there, so I'm going to first do the powers and abilities, and then we'll look at the calendar. So on page 7 in your packet, the first item is granting of authority. This action establishes the spending limits for the executive director, the executive board, and then explains what we need to do to bring a purchase or contract to the full board. So my current authority is $50,000. I can spend up to that amount. Between 50 and 100, I must bring that request to the executive board, Anything over $100,000, it needs to come to the full board. So we have a motion.
So moved Essex. Second South Burlington.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded for the a motion for the granting of the spending authority, authorizing the executive director to expend up to $50,000, the executive board for expenditures up to $100,000, and the full board to approve expenditures above $100,000. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries and the granting authority has been granted for the coming year. Thank you very much. Next item, Sarah.
The next item is to set interest payments. So this is only needed in the event that we have established a municipal assessment. So what this does is it allows us to charge interest if the municipality is late in remitting their assessment payment. We currently do not have any municipal assessments for our members, but we need to annually set this late payment in the event that we do. So the motion is to set the interest rate for late payment at 1% per month or 12% per annum for member municipalities if assessments are established.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to set interest payments at the rate of 1% per month or 12% per annum for member municipalities if assessments are established. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions. Motion carries and the interest rates are set for the coming year. Sarah, next item.
The next item is the fidelity bond for officers, and this is a type of an insurance policy that will protect business or business entity, in this case, the district, against financial losses due to dishonesty or financially fraudulent actions of certain employees, officers, or directors, or in this case, commissioners. So the motion is to continue the fidelity bond of $500,000 per incident for commissioners of the Chittenden Solid Waste District, the Director of Finance, and the Executive Director.
So moved South Burlington.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded, and I realize I have not allowed for the opportunity for discussion on these prior motions. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to continue the fidelity bond of $500,000 per incident, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Motion carries and the fidelity bond for officers is continued for the coming year. Sarah.
The next item is the approval of check signing privileges, and this is also a fraud protection guard. It's a best practice and will help to enhance our financial accountability. The motion is to authorize the chair of the Board of Commissioners, the executive director, the director of administration, and the treasurer to sign checks and electronic transfers throughout the upcoming year. And further, any check or electronic transfer greater than $25,000 shall require 2 signatures.
So moved Essex.
Second, Charlotte.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve check signing privileges as detailed in the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? I declare the motion carries and approval of check signing privileges are extended for the coming year. The last item, I believe, in this section is the setting the meeting schedule. Sarah?
Correct. So also in the packet on page 8, you have the proposed meeting schedule for the upcoming fiscal year. Something that Paul and I wanted to throw out to the group for discussion is to basically combine July and August. We tend to take one or other of the months off. And I think it was either last year or the year before, we postponed the July meeting and we pushed up the August meeting, and we met once, but in the middle of the summer. So we were going to ask the group if there was kind of the desire to do that this year, and if so, we would amend the proposed schedule accordingly. And I'm just realizing I didn't look up to see what.
So the possible dates would be, we'd still stick to a Wednesday date. The potential dates would be August 6th, I believe, or August 13th.
So 13th
Mike?
gets a little closer to the 18th, to the 27th, which would be the normal. So there are 5 Wednesdays in July, so it could either be July 30th,
Okay.
August 6th. Would be right in the middle.
Any comments, reactions? Sometimes it's hard to get a quorum. It's vacation time. So if people say that no, this doesn't work for them, maybe that's a better way to approach it, get some feedback. Margie?
To the extent that a quorum is difficult, July 30th is the only one of those dates that I might be available, I believe.
Moving along quickly, I'm not hearing others.
Oh, I won't be available. Sorry, I won't be available July 30th. I'll be out of town.
Rick, your hand is up.
Yes, given that things are moving along with respect to the new MRF, is there any likelihood that enough business is going to come along that we're going to wish we had 2 meetings scheduled during the course of the summer?
I think so. We're deep into the permitting phase at this point with the MRF, so I think it would just be kind of basic updates at this point.
Okay.
I don't anticipate there being any, well, I won't say no. I will not anticipate the need for a meeting. However, we can always try to call an emergency meeting or a special meeting as needed, which we've done in the past. But right now, things are proceeding fairly status quo.
Okay. I realize that my choice of words about wishing we had had 2 meetings is probably the wrong choice of words, but you know what I'm getting at.
Any more observations from commissioners? I frame it now, the level of interest in having 1 meeting in July and August as opposed to 2 meetings. You could raise your hands, a thumbs up, say you like the idea, or
1 meeting?
okay, that's helpful. So now we're down to July 30th or August 6th, I believe, are the dates, Sarah.
Right, those are the Wednesdays.
I can't do August 6th.
Okay.
So it seems like we have 2 who are unable to do the 6th.
Marty and Barb.
And 2 who are unable to do the 30th.
Be out of town.
Okay, well, I guess it's going to be up to the chair to make a recommendation then, and I would recommend that we meet on the 30th.
What does Burlington and South Burlington do to the quota?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed that comment.
Well, we have, if Allison is available, she's checking. Allison's good, and then we can check with Matt.
It's 14.
Sorry, Paul.
That's fine.
That was a good question.
It is a good question.
No, it's hard to schedule these things, so it's and we recognize people have lives, and if you need to be away, then by all means that you need to do that. The biggest concern again is quorum, but at this point, I think we're going to have to trust that we will make that happen. So what I think we're at now is then to amend what's in the packet to say that the July meeting would be on Wednesday, July 30th, and that there would be no August meeting. Is that correct, Sarah?
Correct.
And just for clarification, would exec board meetings still be held or dependent?
Dependent upon the business need, I think, would be my recommendation.
So we're saying no change to the printed schedule for the exec board meetings, correct?
No, we're saying to eliminate the July exec board pending the need, if there's any business items.
Right.
Or we could keep it on there, actually. We could keep it on the schedule and then just
Yeah.
cancel it if there's no business. Why don't we do that? So keep
That
it-
would be my preference.
Makes sense.
So again, to be clear, I think we're heading up ready to approve this calendar. And the adjustments that we have made is that the full board meeting in July would be Wednesday, July 30th, and we would not have the meeting on Wednesday, August 27th. Is that correct?
Correct.
Just want to be clear.
Could I ask that, Amy, you send that out once
Yes.
it's approved, just via email?
Yeah, we will send out the approved calendar with adjustments.
And make sure
Oh,
it's alternates as well.
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the calendar as amended.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we amend the calendar, proposed calendar that appeared in the board packet. And the amendment again is as follows, that the full board meeting for the month of July would take place on Wednesday, July 30th, and that we will not have a regularly scheduled board meeting in the month of August. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
aye.
Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries. The calendar is now set, and as was just requested and acknowledged, that will be emailed out to all commissioners so that you can mark your own personal calendars. Thank you very much for your flexibility. Next item on the agenda is a conflict of interest policy, which I believe begins on or about page 10. I don't know, Sarah, if you had any comments. I would like not to spend a whole lot of time in there. I think it's clear, but just wanted to see if you had any comments. I have one comment to make.
No, just as, it's a good annual reminder, and so that when we start to include this for when we do have new commissioners, it's a good time of the year to just remind folks that we actually have a conflict of interest and ethics policy, and to be able to ask any questions if there are any at the time.
Thank you. And I just wanted to reiterate a section, and I'll read it out loud. And this is as much a benefit for commissioners and as well as the public, so that they have confidence in the business that we're doing. So I just wanted to acknowledge on page 9 of our packet, section 4A, with the headline of conflicts of interest. Board or committee members must avoid situations where the public reasonably believes that a situation might compromise a commissioner's judgment on any official act or action or impair their ability to serve the public interest. Avoiding actual, potential, or apparent conflicts of interest is important because board and or committee members should act with integrity and in furtherance of the public interest. I've ad-libbed a little bit, but again, just want to remind us all that we need to hold ourselves to the absolute highest standards to maintain the public trust. So that I believe very strongly in that. In this day and age, we need to adhere to the highest possible standards to be true to our responsibilities and our constituents. That's just my comment. Allow other commissioners to make any other comments that they wish to make at this point on the conflict of interest policy. I'm hearing none, so then we'll move on to item number 6, which is other business. Is there any other business to bring before the Board of Commissioners at this organizational meeting tonight? Rick, your hand is up.
Yes, apropos the calendar, we all have access to a calendar through our CSWD email accounts. Has consideration been given in the past to putting meeting schedules on the CSWD calendar so we can simply subscribe to it rather than having to add everything to our own and possibly getting it wrong?
Yeah.
Yes, I will send that out. Josh Esty actually requested that of me last week.
Okay.
Novel idea.
Thank
Thank you. Yes, that makes total sense, and I will do that later this week or early next week.
It's wonderful to hear that great minds think alike. Is there any other business to bring before the board at this organizational meeting? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Essex.
Second, Jericho.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn this annual organizational meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? This annual organizational meeting has now concluded and is adjourned. We are now ready to move to our regular meeting. So I'd like to call that meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. The time is 6:35 p.m. We do have a quorum present, so I would like to call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Chittenden Solid Waste District. A packet has been sent out and contains the agenda and other supporting documents and materials. First item on the agenda is the agenda itself. Are there any requests for changes or additions to the agenda?
Paul, I'll have 2 items under other business.
Okay.
And could I
yes,
add
Barb.
to other business, a request for some clarification
Okay.
on a recycling question?
Okay. We'll make note of that.
Okay.
But I'm not hearing for any other changes or additions to the agenda. We do have the regular other business scheduled as part of the regular agenda. So we will follow then the agenda as presented in the board packet. Next item on the agenda, number 2, is a public comment period. Are there any members of the public present, either in person or via the phone or Zoom, who wish to address the board? And Becky, I see your hands up. I'll get to that in a minute.
Hi. So we
Yep.
do have some folks from Curb Resource Collection with us. I'm going to promote them to a panelist so they can address the board.
Okay.
They should be rejoining the meeting in a second as a panelist.
Becky, I didn't catch who it was.
This is Curb Resource Collection.
Okay.
Yes,
They now have permission to address the board as needed.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, Representative from Curb Resource. You're currently on Zoom and you're muted. During this public comment period, it generally would allow 5 minutes for you to address the board with whatever you'd like to present with us. At the outset, if you could just identify yourself by name and your organization, I think that would be helpful for the Board of Commissioners to be aware of and receptive to whatever you have to address us about.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, my name is Brian Summers. I guess not much of a comment, or very curious. You know, we've been going through this whole Burlington recycling reorganization, and it was brought up of how CSWD is paying their recycling solid waste generation tax. I didn't get a very clear answer from the city. I didn't know if you guys could provide, you know, a clear breakdown of the formula of how that's generated or how that's calculated.
Off the top of my head, I can't. I don't have that right at my fingertips, but I can certainly go back and see if there's formula that we use. I will talk to Lee. You may have more detail on that than I do. But we do pay for Burlington for the recycling that we collect at the drop-off center. So I will get that for you, and I can either send that to you if you want to send me, Brian, an email with your contact information, and then I can also include that information in the packet that goes out at the next board meeting.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I'm sorry, could you just, what is your name?
Sorry, I'm Sarah Reeves. I'm the executive director. Apologies.
Yeah, I can definitely find your contact. I've seen it before, so I do appreciate it. Yeah, I was really just kind of checking in to listen. I just had the time, but you know, I didn't realize public comment was here, so I figured I'd ask.
Great. Well, I appreciate you stepping up, Brian, and asking the question.
Yeah, of course.
And again, Sarah, we'll get back to you. Her email address is sreeves@cswd.net. And if I've spoken too quickly, you can go to the CSWD website, and the contact information will be easy to find in that website.
Great. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it, everybody.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming and speaking with us.
Paul?
Yes, Alan.
Yeah, did he say that CSWD is subsidizing the Burlington recycling program? Okay,
I think so.
He wants to know how they pay the solid waste generation tax. And the way it was explained to me is it's broken down. I explained it as best I could. It's broken down by weight. You know, you get the bags, there's so much tonnage per household that's converted to one residential unit. So based off of the amount of trash brought in, they use that formula to come up with how many residential units per month, and then they pay the solid waste generation tax to the city based off of that, which I think this past month was like 46 or 40.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
I have it in an email here somewhere. I can't remember if Brian sent it to me or.
It's from long ago, so we'll dig that out and report back.
And as Sarah said, that she'll include this information in our next packet. I think there's probably not enough information for us to have an informed discussion tonight about this. Get the facts straight, and then a response. And then Alan, I think if there are further questions, we can bring that up at our July meeting.
I'll include it in my director update for the next meeting.
Are there any other members of the public present who wish to address the Board of Commissioners? Hearing none, I'll close the public comment period and move on to item number 3, which is the consent agenda, consisting of the minutes of the May 28th, 2025 meeting of the Board of Commissioners, program update memos, executive director update, the finance report, that's our standard finance report that's in the consent agenda, the legislative update, and the authorization for the expenditure for concrete at the organics recycling facility. Are there any requests to remove an item from the agenda for further discussion? Marty?
Yeah, I had a question about the I believe it was the executive director update about the question of heat signatures and seeking a waiver. Is it, I just would like to.
Let's pull that from the consent agenda and we'll pick that up in a moment.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll take it that's a request to pull the executive director update out.
Paul, I'd like to ask that the legislative update be pulled out. I'd like to hear from Jen and have it in the public session thought it was very interesting. So anyway, I think it'd be worth having that. So I'd like to do that.
Any other requests to remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, the consent agenda will be approved with the exception of item number 3.3, the executive director update, and 3.5, the legislative update. All the other items, 3.1, 3.2, 3.4, 3.6, are accepted and approved as presented in the consent agenda. So let's move to the executive director update. I do have a comment that I'd like to make, but Margie, first, your question.
Well, I just noticed this, that there was a meeting with the fire marshal's office because our current plan does not meet the requirement of automatic. And I'm just a little concerned about that. I mean, is this something that could there be a problem when there is not a human being on site? I mean, I'm not understanding what the risk is of not having an automatic system.
Sure. So what I'm describing is something that we're proposing for the new facility.
Right.
So our current facility is standard sprinkler. That's normal, and we have designed the system for the new project according to standard automatic sprinkler action. What we're looking at is something that it's a newer technology. It's in place in dozens of facilities across the country already. It's not super new, maybe 10-ish years old, where it's It uses heat sensing technology to identify potential hotspots, something that might be smoldering, and to more quickly pinpoint where a heat source of fire may be occurring before it even has time to generate additional smoke and flames that would then reach the actual sprinklers, which are going to be 20 plus feet in the air. So the reason that this is intriguing is because I've told you about the fire hazard that is pretty prevalent in MRFs around the country, around the world, that come from lithium-ion batteries. And because they're so small, they can be smoldering under a pile of recycling for hours, with the risk being that they would then become flames after hours, where it would be much more difficult to, you wouldn't have anybody on site anyway once you close the doors or over the weekend. And then you really do run a very, very strong risk of having some catastrophic incident before the flame can kind of reach that automatic sensor. So this technology is, again, always constantly scanning the room, scanning the piles, scanning the bales for that heat sensor. So it's actually a more rapid response to a potential fire incident. But yes, the issue that the fire marshal has is that it is a remote watch kind of a situation. So there's someone who's constantly watching for these potential alerts from the system to then look at the cameras that the alerts are looking at, the sensors are looking at, and then they would literally push the button to turn on the water. Even with that slight delay of a couple of minutes, it's much, much faster than waiting for that fire to reach the point of the quote automatic system of the sprinkler heads. This is mainly for incidents where we don't have someone on the floor. During the normal business day, when we're receiving material, we are always have someone on the floor with the loader, moving material around, watching loads on trucks tip the loads out. So we're always going to have eyeballs, a physical person on the floor. It's when we close for the day, and more importantly, like I said, over the weekend, where no one is working at the MRF over the weekend. So, but the fire marshal's point is that they want that automatic response that comes with the standard sprinkler head. They didn't say no. They said it's unlikely, but they are very open to new technologies, and they want to hear more about it. And again, it encouraged us to submit the request. But we have, again, designed the system under the standard automatic sprinkler head normal response. So it's something where we are looking to make the case that it would actually be a quicker response, even if, with that person having to look at it through cameras over the weekend.
So you're saying that somebody will look at cameras over the weekend? I guess I'm,
yes.
Okay, got it.
It's a 24/7, 365, 366 on a leap year monitoring system. That it is a subscription system, so we are paying this company to do that. They always have staffing for this. So it's again, the automatic is that there's no person needed, right, to be able to push the button to release the water. That's the lack of automation.
Great, thanks. I think that answers my question.
Henry, your hand was up regarding something on this issue?
Yes, will those have any impact on insurance rates? And I would think thermal sensors would be sort of common to put in, but yeah, this sounds like it would have an impact on insurance.
It potentially could, which we haven't gone to our insurance agent to understand the impact, but we believe that it would, because it would significantly reduce the loss, certainly of the material, but also the potential loss of structure.
Thank you.
Rick, your hand is up on this issue.
Rick, you muted?
I'm sorry. I'm a bit perplexed here because if this is heat sensor, if this is operating based on heat, sensors. It seems like if somebody's looking through a camera, there may be nothing to see.
Right, so the person is responding to an alert by the equipment. So the equipment is constantly scanning the piles and scanning the bales and is looking to identify heat or smoke. And then when it raises the alarm back to their headquarters, then a person goes on and confirms that yes, there is an issue.
And they confirm it using data from the heat sensors, not purely visual data.
It's both.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
And then Leslie also has a question, Paul?
Yep, go ahead, Leslie.
So I don't understand, have you proposed this as a substitute? Why not just have both?
Cost.
How much?
Josh?
Well, the proposed system is less. The proposed system is about $150,000, and then but it takes out all of the sprinklers needed for the tip floor and the bale storage room, with an added benefit of reducing our total building flow of water into the building. Which
Now, my
may,
question is, so what would be the total cost of having an automatic sprinkling system and the heat sensing system?
well, we'd be
both
adding
together?
another at least $150,000 to the project cost, but it's a little more complicated than that, because we also are looking at potentially eliminating the need for a fire pump if we can substitute out normal sprinkler heads for this product.
So it would reduce the cost overall of the fire suppression system.
Yeah.
I didn't get my answer. I'm
You're
not
asking,
communicating.
you're asking for the total cost of everything involved, of everything.
If we did both.
If we did both.
Yes.
It would be an
So-
added cost of $150,000.
But the current
I'm
estimate
not
of the
asking
system.
the added, I'm asking the total.
I don't know,
both.
I don't know that we know the breakout of what the sprinkler cost of the building.
So you
is.
haven't costed out an automated sprinkling system?
We are in the process of bidding and costing the current MRF, yes. We just received the construction drawings to go through that process.
With or without an automated sprinkler system? With.
The question of why we don't have the final number on the fire suppression is because we're not sure what the size of the fire pump is that we need, so there's a difference there. And then if we need to sprinkler the entire facility, and if we remove that, so Josh is saying, this piece that we're looking at now, the cost is $150. When we know the size of the fire pump needed, or if there is a fire pump needed, then we'll know the cost of the entire system. So as he said, that system cost is being bid out at the moment, so we don't have.
Okay, well,
that cost.
that's fine, but I'm just saying that, I don't see why, given the magnitude of the overall project, we wouldn't want a belt and suspender solution. Why would we put all our eggs in this basket that we've never worked with this company, you know?
And that's one of our considerations,
Yeah.
is do the potential benefits outweigh that risk?
Well, there are multiple risks, and simply saying, well, we're asking for a waiver struck me as a little early in the process.
It's to be able to consider this as an option. If so, we're not gonna go down the road and bid this out if we can't even, if the fire marshal says it's an absolute no. So the conversations have been, could we consider this, could we propose this to ask for this waiver, and if so.
I see, okay, that just wasn't
Sorry.
clear where we were at, okay. I want to thank Marnie for raising this, because I did look at it, but I didn't really focus on it the way she's brought it to our attention.
Rick, another comment on this issue?
given that that water doesn't work on lithium-ion battery fires, is there some other fire protection technology that's going to exist in addition to the water, or is the idea that the water will just keep everything around the lithium battery from burning?
I will just say, water from a fire department perspective is the only way to attack lithium battery fires, and a lot of water and as much length of time as possible. So that is the current recommended course of fighting lithium battery fires, and is the only really proven way to put them out.
Okay, that wasn't my understanding, so thank you for clarifying.
Lauren has a question. Paul?
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Lauren.
Is this state or local fire marshal that you're talking to?
We're talking to the state, but it's also, they're referring back, so the local uses state and federal, they don't have their own guidelines, Burlington has its own system, but Williston does not. And the state fire marshal is referring to federal guidelines.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
And Paul also has a question?
Go ahead, Paul Stabler.
I probably shouldn't ask this, engineer this, but my only concern with this system, the heat sensor, is what happens if our internet connection goes down? Are we exposed such that something could happen and nothing would, water would be sprayed? So that would be a concern that I would have as a fire marshal or something, or the town. So anyway.
And Josh, you were in
something to consider that.
Yeah, they do have backup systems for both power and connection. So it has a cellular backup for that reason.
Okay.
And then if they lose both connections, that's when we get a call and we institute a fire watch program. So there's redundancy certainly in the program.
And that was brought up at the meeting with the fire marshals as well, so yes, good catch.
Any other questions on this fire suppression issue? I just wanted to call out then two items on the executive director report, one is for the public to be aware and one is for the commissioners. But I just wanted to call out again Sarah's acknowledgement of the receipt of the $1.5 million grant from A&R, which is applied to the cost that we had to purchase the new property, or the property for the new site, and that was a 50% of our total outlay for that, and it's a significant benefit to the district, and thanks to A&R for their support of our project. The second one is just to call out the new section in Sarah's report with questions from commissioners. I really liked it. As questions come up, give Sarah a chance to understand the question and then share the answer with the full board. Oftentimes maybe one commissioner has it in mind, others do as well. So I just wanted to call that out and thank Sarah for doing that. I think it's an excellent addition to her memo. And I see some other folks raising their thumbs as well. I'm ready to
I don't know if this is the right time, Paul, to raise this question, but it piggybacks on your comment about the A&R grant. There have been and then we've got the bond issue later on the agenda. I think it would be very helpful to the Board of Commissioners to see a recast project budget and cash flow timeline going forward, because there've been a lot of changes from the original, and I'm sure you're on top of it, but I've lost track. So maybe the next meeting.
Sarah will make note of that.
Yep.
The next item that was asked to be removed from the consent agenda is a legislative update. Paul Stabler, you would ask for this?
I was hoping you could just tell us in open, in the public session here about the bills that did pass. I thought they were interesting. Anyway, if you wouldn't mind, just go over that again.
Yeah, no, not at all. So there were two items that we were involved in. One was had to do with the household hazardous waste EPR, extended producer responsibility law that was passed last year, or 2 years ago, sorry. And that the producers of household hazardous products were struggling to organize. And A&R wanted to give them some more time. We're the first in the nation, the only in the nation at this point, that has an EPR law for household hazardous waste. So never been done before, and they needed more time. And we supported that because we want that program to be successful.
Are they receptive though to this, or are they?
They are. There's an organization that represents a lot of the producers, a trade organization that wants to stand up the producer responsibility organization that organizes the program, and they're very active. And what they couldn't do is get a lot of the other outside producers to come on board. So there's a bit more teeth with this new bill now, where if they don't submit a plan within a timely manner that's acceptable to the agency can go ahead and do their own plan and implement and charge the producers what that is. So I would say there are a lot of producers that are receptive, and then there are some that have sort of stood back and not done anything. The other piece of that there was a lot of pieces, but the ones that I highlighted were the delay, which impacts us because it's a year delay before we have a program. The other piece that was pretty major moving part was moving a lot of those products out of the original law into the paint care program. And that was somewhat complicated, and we actively negotiated with paint care about that because they don't pay for all the costs that are associated with collection, as is stipulated in the household hazardous waste law. And it's about 60% of what's impacted in that household hazardous waste law. So paint care came around to agreeing to pay for additional costs other than disposal costs, which is really the bulk of what they pay for paint. So that in itself, and just moving the language was kind of complicated. But we're happy with the outcome of that. It was initiated by the agency, and we supported and testified on that. The other bill, the other issue was on pesticide collection and disposal costs, and we've been supported by the Agency of Agriculture for probably about 25 years, and them giving us grants, reimbursing us basically for the cost of pesticide disposal. They do that through a fund that's in statute, that's established in statute by producers having to register their products and pay a fee that goes towards, some of that goes towards funding our collection programs. That has not been sustainable. They no longer can fully fund the collection, so we have been advocating for a change in the statute for additional funding. We also advocated to have the Agency of Ag be required to look at more sustainable funding mechanisms in the long run, such as extended producer responsibility program, because it really, they're halfway there with the funding aspect of it. It would be nice if the producers were more in control and more involved with the program itself. So they're going to be working on that report and submitting that to the legislature in December. So we're really happy to be back on track and getting fully funded for pesticide collection.
It will eventually help our bottom line.
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Did I see Ken? No, Rick, your hand is up on this. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Some of you are aware that Heinsberg did a tire roundup in conjunction with Green Up Day, and we collected just a hair under 11 tons of tires. And I was there for part of that collection, and there was a lot of discussion about tire EPR. and H204 seems to languish in committee. So I'm wondering if you are likely to be involved in trying to push that legislation along in the next session.
Yeah, I've held a small stakeholder, not stakeholder, more of a interested solid waste district meetings for about a year and a half on this issue, along with the Agency of Natural Resources. The difficulty with the extended producer responsibility proposal is that the definitely industry is not supportive. Retailers will definitely have issues with that as well because they make money on tire disposal at their businesses that take back tires when they're changing out tires for their customers. And the Agency of Natural Resources, their most recent data on illegal tire disposal, which is really what the only EPR, I think Connecticut is the only, do you know any others? I think that's it. Yeah, Connecticut is the only state that passed extended producer responsibility on tires. They're having major issues with that law. They've got to go back to the legislature and make some fixes. They did it on the premise of illegal dumping. They had great data and big problems with illegal dumping, which Vermont does not have, and we definitely don't have the data. So there's a lot of challenges with that idea. I think that I definitely believe that it will happen. There's a little bit of, there's still work to be done with the producers, and there's still work to be done with the data, and telling the story of what the problem is, and then addressing retail concerns. So I don't have all those answers, and I don't feel extremely comfortable pushing on something that has some blanks to it, some blind areas.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And your hand is up.
I don't know what the best forum is, if it's now or not, to talk about tires, but I feel like we have a strange situation going where we're asking people to bring their tires to drop-off centers and pay for it. And then on Green Up Day, we're only supposed to be collecting, discarded tires from the roadside, but then we're using taxpayer money to have drives so that would allow people to keep their tires in their garages and bring them for free. And I just think we're sending a mixed message. I mean, why not just let tires come for free to the drop-off centers rather than using our cleanup funds to run tire drives?
I think this is kind of venturing away from the legislative update questions as part of the consent agenda. I think it's a very legitimate question, but I'd see if we can put this on an item for a future meeting. But I think we're just straying a little bit farther away from the legislative update at this point.
Yes.
So, but Ken, please keep that's certainly one to send to Sarah, and maybe she can address it in her monthly memo, and then see if also this rises to something that needs more time at a board meeting. So going back to the legislative agenda, any other discussion on this item that was in the consent agenda? Hearing none, both of the items that were pulled from the consent agenda, the executive director update and the legislative update, were merely updates. No action was required by the board. I don't believe an action is required to accept these reports. I'll just acknowledge that we've had extended discussion on these two items that were in the consent agenda. And without objection, then I would like to move on to item number 4, which is the MRF update, beginning on page 29 of the board packet. And I'll turn it over to Sarah.
So you've heard a little bit about some of the items that we're working on. Mainly, we are working on our permits. So several of the permits have been submitted, and they're just in their process. We are going back to the DRB in Williston in July. Is that correct? For their next meeting, which should be the final meeting, July or August? In August. So in August will be the final meeting. That's right, it's Conservation Commission in July. So Conservation Commission July will address their concerns, which they only had one. They are looking at a Class 3 wetland that we show on our map. Class 3 wetlands are non-jurisdictional wetlands, so, and we've also avoided it anyway, but they wanted us to come back and talk more about that, so we will do so. And then we are waiting on the habitat report. That's also due in the next couple of weeks, so that will go to the Conservation Commission as well. So that'll be part of their report to the DRB in August. But there were very, very few questions with the DRB when we met with them last month. So it's just wrapping this piece up with them in August, and then we should be all set from the town's perspective. We did receive a jurisdictional opinion from Act 250, and this project does not require an Act 250 permit. So that does shave some time from our process and a little bit of cost as well, which was great. So I want to thank Haley Barber, who was our project manager, for identifying that potential avenue, which was great. That was excellent. So we are all set with Act 250. Yes, Lauren.
That means that we are also exempt from archaeology, correct?
Correct, from their perspective, yes. So we were, that was the one piece with Act 250 that was not part of other permitting that is always part of Act 250, and then that does add quite a bit of time for that study. So correct, that's why that was a big benefit for us. And again, the reason for that is because we are a municipal project and we are disturbing fewer than 10 acres. So that kind of put us into that potential category to seek the JO, which was granted. So thank you to Kaylee and Josh for all the work on that as well. Amy, are you able to share your screen? I would love to be able to show the overhead, if possible.
Is it in the packet?
It's in the packet, yes, it's on page 30 of the PDF, if that's possible. Rather than just describing what we're seeing. Paul Stabler had asked to have a view of the finished design, now that it is final.
Yeah.
And we know it's final because it is being permitted as we speak. So we are not changing anything unless we are required to do so, then we don't. So yeah, page 30 on the PDF is the one I wanted to take a look at. That's the one. Sorry. Where did we go? Quite a bit larger if we can. It's good for the public to be able to see too. So yeah, so what you're looking at, maybe if you could keep moving it up a little bit. Becky, go ahead.
I'm not sure if this is true for everyone on Zoom, but right now I'm seeing the F drive, Amy.
Oh.
Entire screen.
Here.
There you go. And then you
And I just sprung this on Amy, so I apologize.
That's okay, I just not. Are you seeing it now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then if we can enlarge that just a little bit. Great, thank you. So this is essentially the finished design. Yep, that's good. So a little bit page down maybe. So there's Redmond Road at the bottom of the page. And you can see it is quite a bit of an S curve there. So where the at the page, bottom of the page, you see the entrance. Just past that entrance going down to the southerly portion, that's where you get to the all-cycle, so all metals, and then our drop-off center. So you'll enter in just right off Redmond Road, and the concern that we're going to be mitigating as well is folks who are exiting all metals and our drop-off center. That's a tight curve that kind of leads right into that entrance, so there'll be some kind of a traffic warning signal, trucks exiting, entering, to make sure folks do not speed up out of that curve to the straightaway going down Redmond Road to the south. But the trucks and vehicles will enter there. The truck will, trucks that are dropping off material will head over to the scale. And Amy, if you could kind of page up a little bit so that we can see the entire building. That's good, thank you. So trucks will go to the scale, and the building will have direct line of sight from the first floor office in that the corner in the far south to the left, page left. And they'll be able to see coming and going, and then also have a view out to the yard as well. And then in the far north to the upper left corner is where the tip floor is. So trucks will tip there. Where you see those lines with the bold, and they're kind of perpendicular, that is where the trucks will load material. So that section is the bale storage. And basically the MRF, that finished floor perimeter, that outline, if you divide that roughly in half and then a little bit more, the first two on the left is divided also in half into tip floor and bale storage with some office space down closest to the parking lot. And the entire northerly half is all the process floor. That's the entire system. So it's about a 73,000 square foot building, which is mammoth. Jen and Josh and I went to visit Glavel the other week, and they're in a 25,000 square foot building, and we had a real dose of reality when we realized just how large 25,000 square feet is, and realized we were tripling the size of that. So we will have.
I'm sorry, you may not know this, but what's the size of our current MRF?
About 37,000 square feet.
Okay, so about twice. Okay.
Correct,
All right.
so about 35. So in the new MRF, the process system, just for the equipment, is the size of the current MRF, the entire building.
Wow.
So so we are adding significant future flexibility for the MRF. We will have plenty of room to process everything that we have now, to grow. And then if there's any additional tons that we are asked to take on or want to take on, we will have the capacity to do so. So you can see at the bottom of the page there's parking. It says 43 spaces, so that's employee parking and guest parking and buses. There's a ring road going fully around the building that is for, again, ease of access for fire, for us to access the rear of the building for repairs, to remove the compactor. Our glass PGA storage is again to the very north of the building, just off the screen. And this is what it will be. We are not changing the design. So as you see it, is as it will be constructed. So I just want to kind of provide that little bird's eye view. And there are other drawings also included in the packet. We don't need to, and you can stop the share. Thank you very much.
So the tipping floor is where the two bold lines are with the
two bold lines
so
are
you go across the scales.
That is where the bale storage is.
Bale storage.
So that is where the outbound material will be loaded. So those are the loading docks. So to the northern part of that, on that same line, that's the tip floor.
Okay.
So trucks will go in all the way to the, correct, yes, thank you. That's where the tip floor will be. So they'll tip there, and then it will proceed into the other part, yep. And then that's where the system will start to flow the material through, out to bale storage, and then that's where the material will get loaded out, and then back over the scale.
I believe those bold lines are a drop-in grade.
Correct.
Down below grade for the trailers to back into, to the loading dock.
Correct, yes, correct.
And after, say, the city trucks dump, they go back across the scales.
Yep. And then they weigh in and weigh out. And then so trucks that are taking bales out, there's a small pull off just in front of the scale, and the driver will exit, go into the office, get their manifest, their bill of lading, whatever they need, and then they'll be on their way.
It's exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. So there'll be, instead of having basically the one active door for both, really, we'll have double the ability, so 2 trucks can go in and tip at the same time if they need to. 2 trucks can be loaded at the same time if we have that ability as well, or that need as well, and plenty of space for.
You have like a snow storage area, you have a lot of surface lot there.
We do have a lot of surface, yeah. Josh, do you remember where our snow?
I'm not sure it's made it onto, it's probably on the civil set that just got
Yeah.
submitted as part of the first round of official construction documents. If I had to guess, it would be page north.
I didn't know if
Yeah.
you could like
I
haul
thought it
off
was-
site and dump somewhere on the property, or if they allow that.
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
I think, and then for the parking lot, I believe it's
To the
page right
Yeah.
to where the end of that, where it's labeled
I
storm
remember
basin.
that.
So there are a couple of areas that are
Are those
identified.
like rain garden type stormwater features, or is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, they don't have to do, the soil type allows us not to have to do artificial wetlands. So there's good permeability on the site, which is good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Sarah, I want to jump in here. So we're already on record, the commissioner's on record asking for a financial reforecast that will be coming. But can you just give us a brief overview of your hoped for timeline? Just reiterate if things fall into place as you're hoping.
Yes, so when we meet with the DRB, hopefully that will be the last piece of the puzzle. So we are still aiming to be breaking ground in September. Stormwater is in, that usually takes the longest, 60 to 70 days to get the stormwater permit back. If the DRB still has other issues, then that will just further delay when we can break ground. But because they've seen this project before, they're just waiting on the Conservation Commission and the Habitat Disturbance Report. That should be the last component. Getting the fire marshal either to say, sure, go ahead and present this fire buffer, or say absolutely not, then they will give us their permit for that system. That's the next permit that we would need to file as well. But they will have a fairly quick turnaround, because again, it's not, if we go with the standard system, they saw it before the last iteration as well. So it is an aggressive schedule to try to meet this year's construction schedule, season, but we are still trying to hit September.
Have you considered having a groundbreaking ceremony?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So yes, we have talked with our communications and marketing team, and Jen and I have talked about that as well. And we will need to warn it as a board meeting, is my hope, because I'm hoping we will have a quorum of the board to attend. So yes, we will certainly have that. We will want to invite A&R, we want to invite, think tank person, we would invite, the governor, we would invite whoever would want to come, because it is a celebration of a pretty major infrastructure project for the state of Vermont. But yes, that is forward to having those conversations for sure.
Well, thank you for the update. Are there other questions from commissioners on this MRF update? Hearing none, then let's move on to item number 5, which is the MRF Bond Issuance. And again, Sarah, you've got to do a little talking.
Well, I'm actually going to turn it over to our attorney, to Thomas,
Okay,
to explain the need for this. But yes.
Good evening. In your agenda packet is a resolution to approve the issuance of $12 million general obligation bond of the district to finance the costs of, part of the costs of the MRF. As you may recall, in November of 2022, by a very strong, substantial majority. The voters approved bonds of up to $22 million to finance the MRF. In March of 2023, the district issued $10 million of that $22 million authorization. And so the resolution is to approve the issuance of the remaining $12 million as authorized by the voters. The plan of finance will be issuing the bond and obtaining a loan from the Vermont Bond Bank. The Vermont Bond Bank is supported with a AA+ credit rating from Moody's and S&P. Likely to be stronger than the district's credit rating. And their process, their Vermont Bond Bank board will be meeting soon to approve the loan application. That's likely to happen. Then the bond bank, with all the other borrowers, it's expected to be a fairly large bond issue in 70 to 80 million for the bond bank. They will market their bonds in July of this year. They have their own financial advisor and underwriter, so they watch the market to try to get the best interest rate for all the municipal borrowers going through the bond bank and as part of their pooled loan program. So current schedule would be that they'd be pricing and selling their bonds around July 19th and then closing around August 6th or August 16th. It really depends on where, because there is some fluctuations in the market. They really want to get the best pricing for all the municipalities. So the resolution approves the issuance of that $12 million bond, authorizes the chair or vice chair and the treasurer to sign as required by your charter. There is a deferral of principal that is scheduled for 4 years. An overall payment then over about approximately a 24 year period until 2049 is the final maturity. Most municipalities can only borrow for 20 years. Someone had the foresight in 1990, 91 in the charter change to give the board authority to do up to a 40-year project. And long-lived assets such as this can allow you to level your costs over a longer period of time to pay for the MRF project. There's a loan agreement as part of that you'll sign. It's a standard loan agreement the bond bank prepares. The only one item just that to alert you to, and it applies to all municipal borrowers going through the bond bank, that if the district ever defaults in payment of principal and interest on the bond bank under state law has the right of what's called the intercept. So other funds that the state of Vermont would otherwise allocate to CSWD could be intercepted by the bond bank to basically cure your default in payment. It's not specific to the district, it applies to all municipalities that go through the bond bank. That's something that not able to change. So as I said, the resolution, approves the documents. This will be a tax exempt financing, so your interest rate is lower than market rates for corporate borrowers. And then the chair, vice chair, treasurer, executive director are then authorized to sign all the necessary closing documents to receive the loan from the bond bank.
Thomas, a question, is this the same process we followed for the first $10 million that we drew?
That is correct.
Thank you. Do we have language in the packet for a motion?
I think the motion would be, suggested motion would be, I move that the board adopt the resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Chittenden Solid Waste District for the bond financing as presented in our package today and presented to the board at this meeting.
So moved, Jericho.
Second, Burlington.
Thank you very much. It's been moved and seconded to authorize the $12 million bond issuance. That's my language to summarize what we're talking about here. Open up the floor for discussion by commissioners. I'm hearing none. I'm just my comments. One is, again, this is not the first time we've done this. We did the first 10 million, and trust that things went smoothly. We've got excellent counsel to advise us and prepare all these documents and advise us to proceed. So I, for one, feel comfortable in proceeding with this. Leslie, your hand is up.
Yeah, I will vote in favor of this resolution, but I just want to say that I would have been much more comfortable if it had been presented with a revised cash flow forecast. Because there have been a lot of changes since we approved the first 10 million. And it, you know, which we approved based on a cash flow forecast or budget presented at that time. It's now several years later with a lot of changes in the economy, and I just feel that it would have been valuable and appropriate to have that documentation along with this on the agenda. But I'm sure you will give that to us at the next meeting. Just a note in terms of adequate information coming to the board when we're asked, you know, to vote on something of this magnitude.
Understood. And as a reminder, and for our newer board members, as Thomas said, this was part of the $22 million bond that was previously approved by voters. So this is not any more than we had anticipated needing to spend. We always anticipated needing the
Yes,
full
but
22.
all I'm saying is we may need more. I don't know. I mean,
And that's
we don't have information.
True,
So-
and we don't have any more out of this bond. This will satisfy
No, I
all.
know that.
Okay.
I know that. It's a risk analysis.
And I appreciate your.
This is just my view.
Yeah, it's an excellent point that you've made, Leslie, and it's been received, I believe. Other comments on the motion? Hearing none, then all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you very much, everybody. Move on to item number 6, other business. And I know that Sarah had 2 items to bring before us, and then Barb had a question or an item to bring up.
Yes, did you want Barb to go first and then I can?
Sure, let's give Barb the courtesy. Go ahead, Barb.
Okay, I'm on the Huntington Conservation Commission, and it's recently come to us that a lot of people right now are cleaning up their invasives. They're cleaning up their yards, they're doing all that, and they're getting, the Conservation Commission, we have a lot of FEMA sites that we're cleaning up, and we're getting a lot of invasives. I was told we could bring it to the compost facility at no charge, and it would burn off, so there'd be no problem. And then people said to me, well, why isn't that publicly known? So what I would like to ask is that if you would send me a write-up about invasives and the proper management disposal of invasives, then what I can do is I can send it to Front Porch Forums and get that out, because it's a hot topic right now.
Well, I'm gonna toss that to Dan to
Okay.
address from our perspective.
Yeah, so it is something that we have not projected very loudly when we respond to that question in the past, partly just because it's complicated, a little bit complicated, not overly complicated, but the main distinction that we want to get across is that invasive materials at large are generally fine if composted in a commercial composting facility with high
Right.
temperatures for long-term biological activity, so forth. There are a few exceptions, and unfortunately it applies to some of the more popular invasives that you're probably cleaning up in Huntington and elsewhere. And it's essentially the knotweed, which is all over the case. The
Japanese knotweed.
Buckthorn?
Buckthorn's okay, well, yeah, so there's so many invasives. There are hundreds of invasives that we and this is why it's complicated. Knotweed, Japanese knotweed as it is often referred to, the above ground portions is fine. That, as long as it's incorporated into our blend, and we ask that generally that people notify us when they're bringing invasives so that we can incorporate incorporate it sooner than later. What is not okay though is the below ground portions, the tubers or the rhizomes of that plant. I don't know if folks are familiar, but they can go down to 5-6 feet below ground and they can be the sizes of a human leg. They're massive and woody and would survive our process because there's just no way to it's like basically a log sometimes. So that can be processed if it were fully ground, but we are just fresh into doing that processing of material ourselves. So that is a caveat that we often give for that specific material. And there may be a few other woody species, like woody invasives, that we would want to be a little bit more cautious about as well. But in general, so it's hard to communicate that in a few words.
Dan, is there something that either VORS already has or that we could maybe put together? And I'm also looking to Jen, maybe you guys can work.
The state has some material, but it's of course not, it says contact your local something. I think we could probably try to work with Jen's group and come up with something that would be better than nothing.
Yeah, because we could add something to the digest that goes out to thousands of people in Chittenden County.
You can make it one of the front porch forums that we send to commissioners, along with you are. Or because you are one of the commissioners, but we could have all commissioners.
That would be great. And what we have is knotweed, of course, right now.
It's everywhere.
It is everywhere.
Yeah, but who can dig the bottom out anyway, right?
Right.
That's
Right.
Great. Really, thank you a lot, Barb, for bringing this up.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
But Sarah, your 2 items.
So I'm going to, we do have another related also to compost, but first I'm going to turn it to non-compost. I want to acknowledge publicly Jen Holiday for receiving a Pioneer Award from the National Product Stewardship Institute for her 25 years working with PSI on a national basis. She was one of the original board members for PSI back in the day. She has helped shape extended producer responsibility across the country. And they acknowledged her at their recent 25th anniversary conference and ceremony with a really lovely award, actually, one of the nicer ones that I've seen for these things, but is the acknowledgement of her work, and that I just want to make sure everyone here knows how fortunate we are at CSWD, but also in the state of Vermont, to have this woman working for us on our behalf and having moved so much EPR forward, and helping Vermont be a leader in this area. So I just want to publicly acknowledge that. Thank you for your work. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
And so the other item, again, we're going turning back to Dan a little bit, and not just Dan, it's not his fault. You may have seen the news or heard the news that Gardner Supply is filing for Chapter 11. So they are a major customer of ours. They've been a great customer of ours for many, many, many years. And so when we heard about this, read about this, we have met internally as a group to talk about the potential impact to the compost program. They do represent about 26% of our product sales. And that has been a great steady source of sales for us. The flip side to that means that they, being a large consumer of those products, it hasn't always meant that there's been an available product for others who may want to sell our materials. So, you know, I think you all know me. I always look for a silver lining. Where's the opportunity in crisis? We are not feeling that we're in a crisis. We always sell out of our products. We've been doing that for many, many, many years. They have still purchased our product. They are still selling our product at the moment. They do have a buyer. So there is someone who is already in the wings and is working with the bankruptcy proceedings. There may be other potential buyers. It's a pretty valuable asset, a valuable brand. So as far as, you know, will they continue to buy product from us in the future? That is the unknown. But we have other garden centers who would really appreciate having more of our material to be able to purchase. So it opens it up for us to be able to have more access and not have so many chickens in a large basket, but to further diversify where our product is sold in Vermont. And still keeping it wholesale, still keeping it sold in Vermont.
Leslie, go ahead.
There's one more item. So we do have a receivable with them. It's about $74,000 that they owe to us. We are number 20 on their list. So we are further down that list, but we are working with Thomas and one of his associates on making sure that our rights are protected and that we are able to file a claim as necessary. We will be seeking, obviously, to be paid that receivable. The good news, again, well, I was trying to bring the good news, is that because we're at the end of the sales season, we are not anticipating providing them with any more product, or there are no additional invoices to send to them. So that this represents the total sum of what is owed to us. We will obviously try to recover as much of that as possible through the proceedings. It is moving very quickly. All parties have agreed to move this quickly. And the company that is interested in purchasing Gardner Supply is a national company that has a lot of other similar like companies in their portfolio. So it's not some, venture capital firm that's just looking to make a quick sale of the assets. It looks like they would be welcoming coming kind of into a family of like businesses. That's the question.
So the potential for distributing some of what they purchase to other, other customers, how much of that is likely to be purchased by those other customers? Is there absorptive capacity for all of it?
We feel confident there is.
So, yeah, I mean, I think our first step is gonna be this next month, we will be learning a lot more, 6 weeks or so. By August 6th, I think, is their anticipated close date with the new buyer. At that point, we should know a heck of a lot more about, well, then in a week or two later, what their plans are for the local retail facilities, of which there are 6 within the region. And our hope is that, those of you familiar who have shopped in Williston say there's an amazing garden center there that has been there a long time before it was Gardner Supply, and the majority of what we sell through Gardner Supply goes through that outlet. And presumably, you never know who's gonna actually end up buying it or what they will do to each individual property, but it is a terrific location and well suited for another garden center. So our hope is that somebody, maybe this new buyer will take on the same. We've been told so far that they are quite friendly and hope to continue business as normal, but can't be certain of that, of course. So that is one piece of it. That's a good chunk of what we sell through of the 26% that we currently sell. And yes, there's additional capacity at probably most, if not all, of the other garden centers that we work with in the region, which is most of them. There's probably 7 other medium-sized garden centers within half an hour to an hour of our facility that we currently sell material through, which is almost all of them. This week, we were contacted by another garden center in Addison County that we occasionally have been able to supply, but have had to withhold product from because we didn't have enough. Well, now we are opening those doors widely and having those conversations, and tomorrow we're sending 100 cubic yards of material to them, for instance. First material they've had in 3 years from us. So I think we're pretty optimistic, that unlike some of the other products that they sell at their stores, ours is a local product. You can't truck compost or heavy soils very large distances, and so we know the demand is there locally, obviously, and so
That was my question, thank you.
We're feeling pretty optimistic about that, and fingers crossed about recovering some.
So we wanted to update you on that because I'm sure you have heard of it, so we want to let you know the next steps on that.
Any other questions on these 2 items that Sarah had brought up? think we're ready then to entertain a motion. to
You're in
adjourn.
Essex.
Second, South Burlington.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that
Good vice chair.
all those,
Vice chair.
have all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. I take it there are no objections to adjourning. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all.